in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." This is a wonderful promise. I want to be known as a child of God. I want to be known as someone who is part of God's family, who is a part of what God is doing in the world. I hope and pray that you wish that too, is that as you give yourself over to faith and practice your faith in the world, that it wouldn't be just something that's individual and makes you feel warm and fuzzy, but that it would be something that would change the world. It would make others know that you are part of something greater and bigger, and that you want to invite them to be a part of that too. Unfortunately, we have a problem. We have a problem in our spirits. We have a problem in our nation. We have a problem in the world. We have very few peacemakers. We have very few who can take the opportunity to see multiple sides of a situation and bring people to a common ground and a common understanding and allow them to work together for good. I want you to imagine for a moment that you're in the midst of a civil war. Now, for some of us, this will not be hard to imagine. You only have to turn on the news or look at your social media feed for a very short amount of time and realize that we are a divided nation, that we are not united in many ways and many functions, and we have this sort of civil war that's not very civil. Fortunately, very few times has this war gotten into moments of violence where sides are fighting physically with one another, but certainly we can see how the sides are throwing barbs back and forth at one another. But as you're in the midst of this civil war, I want to imagine that you're standing on a bridge. And as you're standing on that bridge, you see both sides. Both sides are at either end of the bridge trying to come at you, and you're being forced to pick a side. You look to one side and you see family and friends, people you care about, people you know. And you hear their arguments, you hear their understandings, and you nod with them, and you say, yes, I can agree with that. But then you look to the other side. You also see friends, loved ones, dear people in your life that you can resonate with. You know their stories, you know their spirit, you know that they are just seeking to do the very best they can for their family and their livelihood and their enjoyment of the world. Now, and while you're standing on this bridge, you have everything you need in order to go into battle. You have all the armaments, you have the weapons, you have protection for you, armor, all the things you need to go into battle. But as you look one way and you look the other, you can't decide which side to shoot at. I think this is what Jesus was getting at when he said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." So when we are forced or asked to pick sides, it is my hope and prayer that we will choose not to start firing, but that we would lay down our weapons and that we would seek peace. Peace with each side, peace within, peace with God. This verse in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, is part of a larger story that is known as the Sermon on the Mount. And specifically, in the Sermon on the Mount, this is part of the Beatitudes. Some commentators tell us that the Beatitudes are not a simple list of things to aspire to, and that I do this well but not this well, but it is cumulative, that you begin at the beginning, and then as you get that down, then you go to the next one and the next one. And so the question might be asked, how is it that we can become peacemakers? Well, just a couple verses before that, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 6, it says this, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." I wonder, have you been hungry? Have you been thirsting? Not just to be right or be on the right side of the battle, but for the righteousness that comes from God. The righteousness that is not being able to win the battle and win the war, but a righteousness that makes us filled with God's Spirit and God's goodness, God's grace and mercy for all. Verse 7, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." My friends, how has mercy played a part in your life? How have you been deserving of one thing but received another? Because of the goodness and the grace of God, going before you? How does that inform not just your life of thanksgiving, but also able to give that mercy onto others? One more prior to what Jesus said in verse 9, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. I think one of the angsts that we have here in our nation today is that we long for something better. What we've seen and what we've known has not been the ideal. We want something better. Well, I believe the better comes from God. And when we purify our hearts, we see God. When we show mercy, God shows mercy to us. When we are peacemakers, we are called children of God. My friends, it is my hope this week that you have opportunity to show the world what this means, that you have opportunity to show peace to the world. I hope that you will know the peace of Christ so that you may pass that peace on to others and find ways that you can be a blessing. God bless you and have a great day.